The following video is a public speech that I had here in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria where I live, and the subject is Programmatic SEO, which is a technique that I use to increase traffic from Google for free. I also speak about what led me to this crazy path of entrepreneurship, and take into account that this is part of a series of talks that I'm having here with digital entrepreneurs, so subscribe. How many of you guys work professionally with SEO? Okay, I was expecting those numbers. That's why I'm not only talking about SEO, I'm talking more about motivations on why am I doing what I'm doing, how I see the future, how I suppose the technology will allow us to do. And my forecasting, I would say, or my kind of, well, what I think in the future is technology will advance, will improve our possibilities, and our possibilities in many sense will allow us to reduce costs of living, and cost of transporting, cost of producing goods, and also this is a kind of an opportunity for entrepreneurship. And but how? Maybe you kind of wondered how technology will allow us to reduce the cost. Basically with software, automation, so software, open source, which is a way to share software in the internet, is like kind of a license, a mode, a way that you can share what you do in the internet so other people, they can use it. They can use it for free. And, well, the third point is internet. We're already experiencing that because we have internet, and we are really experiencing a boost from technology because of internet, because of open source. And me, I'm a developer, and then I will be in the details on what I do and what is my background. But as a developer, I can assure you that this is only the beginning, in the sense that technology is kind of compounding exponentially and will allow each one of us to create products, to solve problems. So yeah, let me go on the first slide, which is AI or automation will not replace us, will empower us. Will empower us, and for instance, let me give you an example. This is quite early, is quite recent, sorry. And this is made with this image. Those images are made with AI, we can call it an AI, which is called Midjourney. And basically it takes into input a phrase. And that is the phrase that I wrote. This is the phrase: automation will allow any worker to become a solo entrepreneur, okay? And okay, that's not like already a product, it's something that can be useful for something, we don't know. That's our role, to understand how to use those technologies. Let me give you other examples. Yeah, the future of work is the ownership of open source software that will create value on our behalf. Okay, interesting. This is interesting more. A future where mankind owns the machine instead of the machine owning us. And that's kind of start looking weirdly, but it is art, it's amazing, because there's no human intervention in that, apart from my phrase. And what about this one? It's the same phrase of before, where I added, like in the Matrix movie. And then it takes stuff from the Matrix. This one, yeah, a young entrepreneur having a talk with a presentation in front of digital nomads in an X Factory cinematic, hyper-realistic, mysterious. Okay, I'm not so young, that's why I also then put this like an entrepreneur. And it's quite the same. So, what's the roadmap of my talk today? I will talk about me and the motivations that are driving me now after this introduction that I made, okay? And then I will go more in the definitions, on the technicalities of what is SEO, what is programmatic SEO, why is a tool, one of many tools that we can use to create products, to market our products, to create small niches, small markets, to sell our product. Then I will showcase a couple of case studies on companies or examples that use that, this technique. Then I will talk about my approach and the results. Yeah, it looks like my master's degree thesis or like the defense. Okay, that's me. I'm a technical person. I'm a Python developer working remotely now since 6 years. So I was a digital nomad. I don't like this definition. I think that it's very sad to move away from the people that you start to know in the place where you live, and then you move away again. So I kind of see those digital nomads, they all started now, like started recently. That's why one of the most well-known digital nomads, which is Pieter Levels, defined himself slowmad, which means that people living 6 months in a place and then maybe changing. But I moved here in February this year. I'm not going anywhere, but I came here because of the community, because of the digital nomad community, because of the possibilities that this place can give. And yeah, I worked freelance since 6 years. Then yeah, I studied computer science, economics, and like statistics. And at the moment, I'm doing this thing, bootstrapping, which I will explain you what it is. And at the moment, I just finished an MVP for this product, which is a search engine for food. It's called Where to Buy It. And last year, I implemented this, which is a financial forecasting algorithm. They are free, by the way, and it's called Where to Invest In. This is my website, iracol.me, and this is kind of the blog that I'm using too. I also wrote a post blog about this talk already. So if you go on parttimeentrepreneur.com, you will find an explanation. I mean, I've written part of this talk. So what is bootstrapping? Bootstrapping is a way to start businesses. And we are talking about startups here. We're talking about startups, and the way we start startups is not relying on venture capitalist funds or external money, so no external financing. And so the objective is that the entrepreneur, sometimes solo, alone, also other times together with other people, but the entrepreneur basically lowers all the cost as much as he can. And programmatic SEO is one technique to do so. But of course, I'm a developer, I'm a Python developer, so I implemented my solution. So I wrote code that created the solution that increased, let's say, the traffic coming from Google. And spoiler alert, at the end of this talk, I will suggest all you guys to learn how to code a little bit. Maybe you will not do the developer as like professionally, but you know, I like to see it as a metaphor. Before, not everybody knew how to read and write. We're talking about like 200 centuries ago. Not everybody, only the people that needed it for professionally had the need to learn how to write and read. I suppose that coding, not today, maybe in 100 years, maybe in 20 years, since we are really going fast and faster. So I suppose that in 20 years is going to be a skill that everybody should have, not to be a developer, which is a stressful job, but to read. Because not everybody nowadays writes as a profession. Not everybody, but we all know how to read, because it's great to read other people, what other people have written. So let's say bootstrapping is a way to do companies. And I will first talk about the person that I personally, I'm kind of copying, in a sense that he already bootstrapped many projects. And also I will talk about a couple of guidance that I get and I suggest you to follow. So, and also community. But let me first introduce you Pieter Levels, which is this guy that you probably already know him. How many of you guys know Pieter Levels? Okay, because I already told you that no. And how many guys know this website, nomadlist.com? Okay. Okay, basically this guy, well, is a celebrity on the digital nomad scene because he his website, nomadlist.com, is a list of cities sorted by how those cities are a good fit for digital nomads. And try to guess which one is the first city in the list. Las Palmas de Gran Canaria. So we are in the right place. Yeah, that's true. And also in the meanwhile, well, yeah, basically, he was living like off of $300 per month because he was a music producer, getting money from YouTube, and then he moved to Southeast Asia, so he had the chance to lower his living costs. And then he started basically a blog, which was called, or maybe still there, it was called 20 Startups or 12 Months to Earth Startups. And he didn't stop at the fifth, but the fifth one was the successful one, which was Nomad List. And then other projects that he started were Remote OK, which is a job board where you can find a remote job. And he's making a lot of money. But he's making a lot of money. Why? And why? Of course, there is a survival bias here. That means that we are looking at a guy who was lucky. He was lucky because the nomad thing, the remote first, the working from home thing happened because of the pandemic. So he was lucky. He was investing, or at least he was, he was investing his time and his energies to those projects that were in the space of the nomads and the remote workers. So he had, he foresaw correctly the future because he already knew what would be the future of work. And so, well, and then he was very successful after that. And, but of course, doing startups is not easy. There are a lot of books and a lot of things to learn, especially that if you fail, it's not like a big deal because you are learning of failing, to fail. And one thing that is mentioned, is worthy mention, is that he builds in public. What does it mean? It means he builds it in public. He basically tweets everything he does. And he's a developer. I mean, he didn't study computer science, he studies economics. But every new feature that he adds, he tweets about that. And it's kind of it's part of the marketing he does. It's part of the overall tools that he uses to market his products for free. Let's go for another one. This is Daniel Vassallo. He was a successful engineer at Amazon AWS, then he quit his job with a lot of money, then started blogging, and so he's a smart person. It's worth mentioning here because, first of all, I really suggest everybody who wants to build a Twitter audience, he has a course on Gumroad that is, well, $25, is true, but, and it basically explains how he did it and how to do it. It's interesting. And that's the part that is important for this talk. He basically has a philosophy on approaching startups. He says, if you start many different projects, maybe in different fields, what the results is that you are increasing the probability of getting one of those big waves like the pandemic. I mean, Pieter Levels, he was lucky because of that pandemic. And then those websites that basically got a lot of inbound flow and a lot of users because those subjects, those market niches grew exponentially. So by creating many different products, you are optimizing, increasing the probability to get one of those waves. And the third thing that I want to mention is indiehackers.com. Indiehackers is a, well, yeah, it was started by Cortland Hallen with his brother. And Indiehackers is kind of like a Reddit thing, like a forum where people starting products and doing startups, they share their journey. And then they of course, they get upvoted, get commented, and it's very interesting because it's a community. And so also he started the podcast. So if you want to know more about this word, is super inspirational. And then he sold to Stripe. That means that if Stripe goes public, it's going to become millionaire probably. We don't know the details. So yeah, but what about my products? This is like the product that this is the front page of the product that I'm kind of finished the MVP last week. And it's called Where to Buy It. It's a search engine for products sold on physical stores. And at the moment, I have data for Italy and restaurants. What this means, you search, for instance, for, I don't know, I want to eat fries in Ancona or in Rome. And then a map shows all the places where you can buy fries and the price. I also use sentiment analysis for that, but then I will get into it very, very soon. So yeah. Let's move on. Let's go for definitions. What is SEO? What is SEO? So SEO is a practice for increasing the traffic from Google or from search engines. And it's not easy. The Google algorithm is always changing, and we don't know really what is behind. But we know the history of Google, of course. And of course, we know what is the web. So this is it can appear a bit complicated, but it's quite easy. Those squares are websites, and the circles are web pages. And the links that you see are hyperlinks. That means that when you, for instance, go to the landing page of this website, let's assume it's this one, then you have a link to the About page or the Contacts page. Then maybe you have another page that links to another website, which is an external website. And that is the web, so it's a network. This is a key concept, because then we will talk about how Google works. Basically, those that you are seeing are data centers. Data centers are facilities, so big factories full of computers, full of servers. Each one of those contains, I don't know, 20, 25, maybe more servers. And why they put them together? First of all, because they consume a lot of energy, and then they need to be cooled. And then you can achieve, let's say, more efficient cooling processes by stacking all the servers together. And but what happens in those servers? Well, many things. First of all, in our current internet, when your device, so your phone, goes into a website, is making a request to a web server. And this is the paradigm of the Web 2.0, which is kind of the client-server paradigm. The Web 3.0 is more like peer-to-peer. And that means that all the devices can connect each other and they communicate each other, but that's another subject. But apart from web servers, other programs that runs there in the Google data centers are crawlers. What are crawlers? So we already mentioned that the web is basically, everybody can host a web server at home. You can put your web server, which is a program that can host different pages. And so it's a distributed technology. Everybody can host his own server at home. I did it many times. I also hosted in the one place in the university without the university's, let's say, allowance. No, is that the right word for English? Like, they didn't give me the okay. But the point is, since everybody can host his own web server, you need a way to collect all the pages that are in the internet, because all the pages in the internet are distributed among different computers. And how to solve this problem? This problem is solved using crawlers or scrapers or spiders. They are kind of all synonyms of the same thing, which are programs that runs on the search engine data centers, and they basically do very simple things. They download a web page. Then they analyze the content of the web page. So maybe they don't do it because the crawler is kind of simple thing. It is a simple process. So it passes the web pages then to the indexer. This is another step that I'm going to talk about later. But then, analyzing the page, it can understand which are the web pages that are mentioned in that page by looking at the external hyperlink. And then it basically follow those links and then analyzing those pages too. But since this process is very complex in the sense that it's done in a parallel fashion, many different programs are going to retrieve many different pages in the same time, and so they have to get in sync together, and they sync together basically by using a queue of like a frontier, okay? Every point in time, all the crawlers will have a frontier of web pages that they didn't access yet. But this is not important. The important part of this talk is that each crawler uses this file, which is called Sitemap Xml. And it's a special file. It was defined by Google on his early stages. And is a machine-readable file, because XML is a format that can be read by machines. And is a map. Is a map of all the content of the website. And the point is that should be present on every website and contain a list of all the pages. So the crawler goes to a new domain and asks first for the sitemap.xml file. And then retrieve from there all the pages that is going to then add to the frontier, of course. For instance, this is an example. This is an example of real stuff, because the domain is my product, which is wheretobuy.it. And for instance, I have like these keywords that are cheapest, panino, ercolano, okay, guys, most expensive bacon in Catania, and those names that you are seeing here are the programmatic pages that I'm going to talk to you about really soon. But in order to conclude how Google works, after a page is crawled by a crawler, of course, it's downloaded by a crawler, it's passed to the indexer. And what Google does is basically analyzes the content of the web page, collects the keywords that are mentioned there, and then it creates a data structure that it means basically that it has a very clever way to store the data in order to retrieve the information. That means that if you ask to Google, give me all the pages that contain this keyword, Google already has a solution for you because he already pre-computed that. And so he has a data structure, again, that is going to give you the list. Those are the list of web pages, this list of documents that contain this keyword. And this is an important part. So, but yeah, the set of web pages that contain a keyword is not enough. We want to rank them for importance. How do they do that? Well, let's say that the more, well, okay, yeah. Page and Brain, the creators of Google, they were in Stanford. They were academics, and one of two basically invented an algorithm to do this thing, which is called PageRank. And PageRank is a mathematical process to understand the relevance of a single web page, taking into account the entire network where it is. So if a web page is linked by important pages, then this page becomes important. So yeah, it leverages the centrality in the network of hyperlinks. This is an example. Nobody cares about those pages. That's why they take so low PageRank value. But instead, B, which is hyperlinked by many pages of basically most of the pages, it gets a lot of the PageRank of the value. And since this is a very important page, and it links to another page that nobody knows, but is linked by an important page, the page C also inherit the importance. This is how PageRank works, and it's a mathematical process, basically. Yeah, okay. Then they went by, they recently they had said that they still use PageRank, but then they integrated it with other informations, like our user behavior. So when you search something, and then you decide on which page you stop your search, Then Google tracks this behavior, and then after that, he understands the statistical properties of that page that you have chosen, and it, let's say, understands that for that query, for that keyword, query that you search in Google, the page that should be on top is that page, or pages that have those statistical properties. And this is done using machine learning, and it's called learn to rank, but this is not important. The point here is, what is programmatic SEO? Programmatic SEO is a technique to adding some pages that link to your landing page in order to give him more relevance. And another feature that has programmatic SEO is that those pages are going to have different keywords. And so they will appear on other queries, on other searches. For instance, if you search for, I don't know, the keyword that identifies your page, and then Milan, then this page is going to be first because it has the keyword in it. But your landing page will also, I wouldn't say appear, but will also have will also gain relevance because of that. And so yeah, let's go on to some examples. For instance, this is TripAdvisor. This is a web page that says walking tours in Lisbon, sorry. And TripAdvisor created a bunch of those pages, and each one of those pages is different from the others because they fill with different content. For instance, these content are real walking tours in Lisbon. And this is another example. This is nomadlist.com, which is, again, the Pieter's Level website. And why am I mentioning here? Because Pieter Levels, again, he uses those tools for lowering the costs of marketing with automation. And in this case, okay, we have Gran Canaria here. The page is, he created pages by, for instance, those phrases are cheapest places near a beach. But basically could have replace that beach with all different possible keywords. And of course, the results kind of need to be different because Google, if Google identifies two similar pages, it's not going to index them, it's not going to rank them, it's going to ignore one of those. And this is Airbnb, this for Gran Canaria, for instance, and those are real listings. So if you search for a stay in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, probably this web page is going to be the first one. And the important part is that you are one click away or one search away from the feature that they sell, because Airbnb allows you to search for listings, and you can do it by simply clicking here. So it must be also it also must be easy for the user to use the feature. It's kind of important also from the user experience perspective. And so, yeah, what we need two things. The thing, in order to implement that, again, I'm a Python developer, so I will explain you which tools I used for doing this with Python. Well, I'm not going to show you any Python code apart from that, which is not Python. But there are tools out there. There are tools to do that. For instance, I read that you can use Webflow or Airtable. Airtable is for the database. But anyway, this is with Django templated system. This is HTML. This is HTML. Those ones that you see with the double brackets are variables. And those variables are replaced by the Python code using a database. For instance, a database could be all the cities where your product is. If you market your product in, I don't know, in my example are all Italian cities. So I have all the Italian cities in my database, and then I can create those pages by replacing the value on the template. And yeah, now let's go on my approach. So what data do I have? I have only data of Italy at the moment. Even though I take the data from the internet, because I also wrote some scrapers, so I get data that are public. And I have data about restaurants, more or less 30,000 restaurants at the moment. and maybe I went more than 1 million products. And so it's interesting because for each product, I also have the price. It's something that kind of I started to tweet, like the average or the histogram of prices of, I don't know, Beyond Burgers in Italy. That was kind of, I wouldn't say viral, but took great interest. And then I also, the reviews. The reviews are associated with the restaurant. And so for each restaurant, I have the products. What I did is writing a program that using natural language processing, so it analyzes the text of the review. It tries to identify which product each review is talking about. And then I use, yeah, this is an example. For instance, this is in Italian, of course. And here we have focaccia. And we know that their restaurant sells, sorry, the program knows. I always say we, because me and the program, of course. And so by analyzing the keywords, the program is able to understand that this review is talking about this product. Of course, it's not perfect, but it's something, you know. Then I use a thing which is called sentiment analysis. How many of you guys know what is sentiment analysis? Okay. So sentiment analysis is a technique of natural language processing or machine learning that analyzes text, Italian text, English text, and for each phrase, in this case, it tries to understand if it's a positive or a negative phrase. And it is able to do that because it can recognize some words. For instance, if you say a bad word, the probability that is a bad review or a bad phrase is increases, but it's kind of it's a mathematical model, kind of complicated, and it's trained on a lot of data. But there are a lot of sentiment analysis tools nowadays, and they're open source, and everybody can access that using Python. It's very easy. And so what I do is I compute the sentiment analysis for each review. So for each product, I know an average sentiment, okay? And yeah, by knowing for each for each product, the sentiment, I can rank them. I can rank them with the highest sentiment. So I can say, which are the best pizzas in Rome? Of course, it's something, it's not perfect, but it's very interesting. And also, that's kind of hard, but, sorry, but I can also order them inversely. So I can ask, what are the worst pizzas in Rome? Or at least the one that I have in my database. And I also have another dimension, which is price. And so I can sort them by cheapest and most expensive. And it's interesting because, well, what are the most expensive pizza in this city? I have that. And this is an example. This is kind of only the first one, and this, again, focaccia barese. And the first one is focaccia bianca al trancio, which is 80 cents. But this is kind of the cheapest. Yeah, this is the cheapest. So there is a focaccia 80 cents. Yeah, I know that. And yeah, interesting also because the restaurant is there, etc. So what are those programmatic SEO pages that I create are basically all the possible combinations of best, worst, cheapest, and most expensive for multiplied times the cities that I have. And for each one of those combinations, then the program is able to understand, okay, we have enough data for a specific keyword. For zucchini, do I have at least seven products? If yes, I create this page and I add it to the Sitemap XML file. And at the moment I have 5,000, but probably I have more. And yeah, I mean, those keywords are identified by the program itself by looking at trying almost all the keywords, and only for the keywords that give enough results, I create a record and then a page for that. So what are the results? The results were that using this technique, I had, as you can see from there on, because I'm analyzing the cities, I didn't analyze all the cities in one batch. I started releasing the cities in different times. And you can see that I increased it. I had, how many? 200K impressions. I have on average 600 clicks every month, which is not so much, but it's free. And as you can see, I have 3,000 impressions per day, which is something. It's a certain point. Also because, I mean, it's a technique that everybody could use theoretically. And so, conclusions. Guys, learn how to code. I don't mean you should become a software engineer. I mean, at least understanding. Python, there are a lot of free courses online. There are a lot of, Python is, for instance, a very interesting language. We created a local group focused on analyzing data with Python, which is called PyData. And every week we get together. And we can speak, we talk actually of interesting things like the AI generated images. And another skill that is very important is how to create value for customers. Because it's going to be the skill of the future. And of course, there are a lot of open source projects out there that are very interesting, and stay hungry, stay foolish. With this I concluded. Yeah, that's my Twitter account where I build in public, so if you follow me, I will publish, let's say, all the various steps that I'm going forward to. And this is my personal website if you want to know. I know it's small, but the important part is there is the mailing list for the last product, which is where to buy. And this is for giving me anonymous feedback. So if you want to offend me, feel free to do it there. And thank you very much. I suppose it's kind of question time. Is there anybody? Yeah.
So how many pages do you have indexed out of the 5,000? How many pages are indexed out of the 5,000? Assuming you have 5K?
That's a very good question, because Google really is not so easy to convince to index all your pages. I have not counted them, but not all of them. Not all of them, and especially because I also index because I have a page for each restaurant with the name of the restaurant, the place, the location, and the list, so the menu. And then I have a page for each product where there are all the sentiment, well, all the reviews associated with that product, and also the price competitions. And so I have many pages. And many times Google, for instance, if I have a ranking of one specific type, Google think that that ranking is a clone or is kind of the same content of those pages. So not all of those 5,000 pages are indexed. But I'm working on it, of course.
All the pages are set to index? You're not no indexing anything?
Could you repeat, please?
You're not no indexing anything? Everything is open? Like, do you block some pages from Google, or you leave everything open? Do you block some of the pages?
Block. No. Okay. No? Take into account that I'm doing things really like. First of all, maybe I should have started the talk by saying I know nothing about SEO, but this is a great thing, okay? Because I'm a software engineer, and it's good to have people like with knowledge, especially because then you can tell me, look, this thing that you are doing could be improved. But at the end of the day, it's cool to know that everybody could start with SEO and do those things. Anyway, thank you for the question. I forgot to say so. Yeah.
How you avoid the irony or double sense when you tag the sentiment of a comment?
Yeah, of course, this is an art problem even in the natural language processing and in AI environment and AI world ecosystem. Let's say that the rankings that I do are not perfect, and I am okay with that. And you also should be okay when you create a new product, like a new startup, that there will always be something that is not perfect. And it's part of the process of doing startups, because the importance for startups is the feedback loop. So it's important to go in the market as fast as you can, even though with a, I wouldn't say a shitty product, but even though with not a product at all, you only go to the market with a landing page. If you see, so you communicate the idea. If you see there is market, there are people going forward and signing, and they want to pay for your product, then you start developing the product. That's kind of how startup should be done. And instead, there are not many places where you can learn that, but let's say by reading some books, and those communities that I've shown you, indie hackers, and so on and so forth, they are very interesting, like starting point to learn how to do that. But of course, there's no perfection in that. So, and we accept that. I accept that.
I think a good example of that is what Pieter Levels did, right? Because he tried one product, two products, three products.
I can't hear you.
Sorry?
You should loud your voice.
Really? Okay. So I think what Pieter Levels did was exactly what you said, right? He tried one until something got successful, and then he went all in.
Yeah. Well, going all in, probably is not all in, not even today. And nowadays, Pieter Levels is making kind of 3 million per year, and is wasting. His costs are almost zero. He was talking about 90% of the revenues going directly to the earnings, or 95, because he really automated everything. He has bots doing. For instance, another example. Maybe it can be like the starting point for the next talk, but first I have to implement that. He does this interesting thing. He has many Twitter accounts, okay? Those Twitter accounts, each Twitter account is associated with one product. And for instance, for nomadlist.com, every day a brand new tweet comes out, and is generated by his software. And is generated by saying, today, this CD, I don't know, or this thing invents a new content area. Or at least he wrote a program that by querying the database is able to get the most interesting content. And then also the images that he tweets are generated using code. And that, I mean, he explains that by including an image in a tweet, he's increasing it becomes more clickbait, of course, because it's more interesting. And yeah, maybe I will implement that feature, and I will start tweeting. Maybe for the financial forecasting algorithm, it would be more interesting, because today forecast, because it's a software that does every day a new forecasting. For instance, for every day as a new portfolio where you should invest. And it would be interesting to tweet that every day and do it automatically. It's already in the server, so it wouldn't take me so much time. But it's interesting, of course. Thanks for the question.
If somebody is a complete beginner in programming, where would be a good place to start to build a website, index it, and work on this programmatic SEO?
Yeah, first of all, it's cool to have as a skill the programming thing. You can live without, and you can make a lot of money without that skill, of course. Pieter Levels is a programmer, but there are many entrepreneurs that they don't. They use those things that are very, very trendy today that are called no-code tools. And the problem with that is, first, you have to pay. You have not to pay so much. No-code tools, there are many types of no-code tools. For instance, for doing a website, you can use Webflow, which I don't know how to use it, or you can use Card, or you can use GitHub Pages, and some of them are free, some of them instead you have to pay. And for Airtable is another example. Airtable is a relational database, so it's a database. It's a place where you store your data, you store your information, but it's in the cloud. It's like a spreadsheet, like Google Excel. No, that's Google Spreadsheet. Excel is Microsoft. And Google Spreadsheet, but where you have different tables and you can connect them like in a relational database, of course. And there are also no-code tools to do this programmatic SEO thing, because I'm not the first one. There are already other people that there are many other people that made products on top of that. And so if you really don't want to learn code, it's fine. There are no code tools. I suggest to learn, if you can, to learn how to code, because some projects, especially in the machine learning world, are open source first. And then somebody takes those open source projects and productize them and tries to sell them to you. And at the end of the day, is kind of, I mean, they are selling you something that is free, you know. It's only because they know how to code, it doesn't feel right, you know. Thank you for the question anyway.
Hi, I have a question about the security. I've heard that adding security also help put your website among the first results.
Pardon, what is
security
in
your website? I mean, for example, if you add a proper TLS configuration, security headers, all that things increase the possibility to appear on top.
Of course, thanks for the question. There are many factors that can influence your how Google think you are a reliable website, you know, because that's really a matter of reliability. For instance, the time that your web servers takes to give the page. So you ask for a web page. The response time, that's an important factor too. And of course, if you are using SSL, which is the protocol to have secure connections to the web, that's, I would say, a very important factor, because most all the websites nowadays, they have that. And of course, there are others, of course, yeah, thank you.
And one more question. I wonder if you have looked into, investigated the possibility to use one of the AWS service for the sentiment thing.
Could you repeat again?
For one of the AWS services?
AWS?
Yeah, I believe they have some cool thing for AI, machine learning.
Of course. Thanks for the question, because then you open a subject which I take really care of. Basically, what the AWS is doing, and they are selling open source. Of course, they implemented their solutions, their own things, but the core is open source. And then they also include in the product the infrastructure. So with one click, you are able to deploy something, which is cool, but it's expensive. I mean, for someone who doesn't know, or it doesn't have 6-year experience, as I do, is expensive, especially for bootstrapping. If you are talking about venture capitalist money, that's another thing, because in that case, that's more stressful, and your objective is not to lowering your costs, but instead, in that case, with funds from venture capital world, your objective is to get the highest possible share of market as soon as possible, and that's completely different objective from the bootstrapping thing. So I don't really believe in AWS. I pay at the moment, I have 2 servers. At the moment, I pay $100 per month. If I would use AWS, I wouldn't even know how much I would pay, because they, this is my opinion again, they don't provide a very, very easy, let's say, interface to understand and to forecast your expenses. There are always some hidden costs. At the end of the day, you forget one server on, and then you get this bill and say, what the fuck, what I've done? But you know, so, I mean, I use Linode or other, of course, I know that I have the knowledge to configure them, because I use Docker, I use those technologies that are open source again, but allow me to do the infrastructure deployment. So on top of a server, I put this code that provides me all the services that I need, like the machine learning model, the database, the web server, and caching system, or other stuff, all the technical stuff. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know that is going to be a technical question.
So So no, actually, this is going to be more of a personal question. You mentioned that you've been bootstrapping for a while, and I don't know how many projects you started, but I'm actually wondering how many of them are profitable right now.
0. But I'm learning how to bootstrap.
Okay, and how many projects did you start so far? How many projects do you start?
Well, the project that I at the moment have, only 2. The financial forecasting algorithm and the search engine for food. This week I just started a podcast. You know, so okay, I have to tell that basically the financial forecasting algorithm allowed me to understand where to invest, and I invested some of my savings in those the output of the model, and it gave me very good money. And so by lowering also my living expenses, I am able to live off that money, basically.
And do you have any plans on how to make those bootstrapped projects profitable or get some revenue out of them?
Yeah, you're right. I have one idea, and I talked with a friend of mine where we started in the first episode of the podcast. I have an interview with him, or he's also interviewing me. We can see it in both directions. And basically, the search engine for street food, I realized that can be interesting for suppliers. For instance, you're a supplier of vegan burgers, and you want to know which are all the Italian restaurants that sell Beyond Burgers. So I can sell the information to the supplier, so he can contact those restaurants to propose his products. And I can scale that for all the products, because again, I have maybe 150, more than 1 million products in my database. But that goes from B2C, which is the product that I am at the moment, to B2B. And I'm not fully sure that I want to go in that direction, because that means I have to hire a team of sales, or I have to be a salesperson first. I have to call those suppliers or producers of product and say, hey, would you be interested on a list of restaurants that sell Beyond Burgers? Yeah, I can do that. I'm not fully sure, and also, I was waiting for this talk before taking any decision for my future, because I had to do some homework for this. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Yeah. So you said you made like 5,000 pages, no? Did you program them from zero, or using WordPress or something like that?
Great question. I use Django. Django is a Python framework. You can see it as a WordPress, but better, of course. Don't kill me for that, Alfonso. But it's a framework that allows you, it's a web framework. So you basically tell the program which pages are going to be shown and how to generate them. And you do that by querying the database, which is a relational database. And so, yeah, I use Django.